So what we have here is the coordinate geometry introduction lesson. And we're going to start off with just some straightforward points. I've marked in here 3, 4 and then point 6, 8. These are just 2 points that I've marked. Now I want to be able to find the distance between these 2 points and the midpoint between them. And the key to doing this is always to complete this is always to create a right angle triangle. So from this point I've got a horizontal movement or shift and I've got a vertical shift. So there we go. To make my right angle triangle complete, there. And that is the distance between those 2 points. Now we're going to calculate it. So horizontally, this is moved from 3 to 6, which is 3 spaces. Vertically, this point has moved up from 4 to 8, which is 4 spaces. Now using Pythagoras' theorem, we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if I write a squared plus b squared equals c squared, I know that 3 squared plus 4 squared, and I can simply take the square root across, is going to give me c, the length of the long side. Okay, so using our calculator, turn it on, and we do the square root of, open brackets, a squared plus b squared, close brackets, equals 5. So the distance between these 2 points, C is the distance, is 5. So what we might be able to do is label this A and B. The distance from A to B equals 5 units. Now, we want to find the midpoint, the point halfway between A and B. It's quite simple. All we're going to do is go halfway along here and put a dotted line in, and halfway along here and put a dotted line in. So, just remove my C for the moment, and we're going to find this midpoint between A and B. So, half of 3 is 1.5. Okay, so if I move from 3, 1.5 along, I'm now at 4.5. So, I can write 1.5 along, and halfway between here and here is 2 units, so going up 2 units I'm now at 6. So that is now my midpoint. 1.5 along from 3 gives me 4.5, sorry, and from 4 here up 2 units gives me 6. This is the midpoint. What we've actually done is averaged these 2 coordinates. So let's look at these coordinates again. They were 6, 8, this is my x and my y, and the other one was 3, 4. Okay, my x and my y. Now if I average 3 and 6, 3 plus 6, and average it, divide by 2, and I average 4 plus 8, 4 plus 8 and divide by 2, I get 3 plus 6 is 9, divide by 2, 4.5. 4 plus 8 is 12, divide by 2 is 6. That is my midpoint. So to recap, the midpoint is the average of the 2 points. The distance between A and B is simply using Pythagoras' squaring this side, adding them together and square rooting them to give you the distance. Let's try it with some other points over here. I've got a point here at -2, -1. -2, -1. And another point, I go along 5 and up 3. And I'm going to call these C and D. Right. So, first thing, find the distance between these 2 points. I simply create a right angle triangle. So, this way, horizontal shift and vertical shift. Distance being this distance here. Work out how far I've gone along this way. 5, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's units. 7 units horizontally, and up I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Okay? So now I have to do is grab my calculator and do the square root of open brackets, 7 squared plus 4 squared, close brackets, equals 8.06. So let's just write the working down for that. The change, or the horizontal movement, went from 5 to -2. So that's 5 subtract -2 squared, plus the vertical movement went from -1 up to 3. So that's 3 subtract -1 squared, and I square root all that to give me the distance. So let's have a look at that. 5 subtract 2 is 7, 7 squared, plus 3 subtract -1 is 4 squared, and I've worked that out on my calculator, remembering putting some brackets in there, 8.06 units. So the distance between there and there is 8.06 units. Now, what is the midpoint? Halfway between C and D. Again, I simply go 3.5 units this way, because half of 7 is 3.5, and I go up 2 units. So coming across here, 2 units, just dot that in, and dropping it down 3.5 units, 1, 2, 3.5 units, and I get a new location of my midpoint. So the midpoint, remember, is average. So C being -2, -1, and D being 5, 3. So let's average the x points. -2 plus 5, all divided by 2, comma. Average the y points, -1 plus 3, all divided by 2, and we get -2 plus 5 is 3. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And -1 plus 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So let's check that. 1.5 along and 1 up. Yes, that is the location of the new midpoint.